Have you ever noticed that people who think too much rarely look like they are struggling from the outside? They still answer messages. They still smile during conversations. They still show up, help their friends, remember small details, and act like everything is under control. To most people, they may seem calm, responsible, and emotionally mature. But inside, their mind is carrying something no one else can see. A silent burden. Not the burden of laziness, not the burden of weakness, but the burden of constantly trying to prevent something from going wrong before it even happens. They think before they speak. Then they rethink what they said after they speak. They wonder if their tone sounded strange, if their message seemed too cold, if their silence was misunderstood, or if their honesty made someone uncomfortable. They replay facial expressions, delayed replies, awkward pauses, and small moments that most people forget within seconds. And the strange part is, they are not doing this because they enjoy making life complicated. In many cases, they are doing it because their mind learned a long time ago that noticing everything was the safest way to survive. Psychology often describes this pattern as excessive mental monitoring. It happens when the brain becomes trained to scan for possible threats, mistakes, rejection, or emotional changes. For people who think too much, the world is not just something they experience. It is something they constantly analyze. They are not only asking, "What happened?" They are asking, "What did it mean? Did I do something wrong? Should I have responded differently? Are they upset with me? What if this becomes a problem later?" Over time, that kind of thinking becomes exhausting because the brain is doing invisible labor all day long. This is the silent burden many overthinkers carry. They feel responsible for outcomes that have not even happened yet. They try to predict pain before it arrives. They try to fix misunderstandings before anyone mentions them. They try to prepare for rejection before rejection is even real. Their mind keeps building emotional safety plans, as if thinking through every possible scenario could protect them from being hurt. From the outside, it may look like they are simply sensitive, indecisive, or too serious. But internally, their nervous system is working like an alarm system that does not fully switch off. And there is usually a reason for that. Many people who think too much did not become this way randomly. Somewhere in their life, they may have learned that being relaxed was risky. Maybe they grew up around unpredictable emotions. Maybe they were criticized harshly for small mistakes. Maybe they had to read the room carefully to avoid conflict. Maybe love, approval, or peace felt conditional. So the brain adapted. It learned to watch closely. It learned to think ahead. It learned to prepare explanations, soften words, hide disappointment, and anticipate reactions before they happened. In childhood, this may have been intelligent. It may have protected them from anger, rejection, embarrassment, or emotional punishment. But in adulthood, the same pattern can become a prison. Because now the danger may be gone, but the brain still behaves as if one wrong move could cost everything. This is why overthinkers often feel tired even when they have not physically done much. Their exhaustion is not always from action. It is from constant simulation. They live through one real situation and then 20 imagined versions of it. One conversation becomes a courtroom in their mind. One decision becomes a maze. One unanswered text becomes a story with 10 possible endings. One small mistake becomes evidence in a case they are silently building against themselves. And because they are often emotionally intelligent, they can imagine each ending in painful detail. That is both their gift and their burden. People who think too much are often deeply aware of how their actions affect others. They notice when someone's energy changes. They sense distance before it is spoken. They remember what hurts people. They try not to repeat emotional mistakes. Because they care so deeply, they try to control every detail that might affect the emotional atmosphere around them. This can make them kind, thoughtful, and careful with words. But it can also make them carry too much. They may apologize for things that were not their fault. They may feel guilty for having needs. They may stay quiet because they are afraid their honesty will hurt someone. They may over-explain because being misunderstood feels unbearable. They may accept less than they deserve because asking for more feels like creating a problem. And slowly, they begin to live as if peace depends entirely on their ability to think perfectly. But no human mind can do that. No one can predict every reaction. No one can prevent every disappointment. No one can think their way into being completely safe, completely loved, and completely accepted by everyone. At some point, the overthinker has to face a painful truth. The mind can prepare you for life, but it cannot control life. And this is where healing begins. Not by forcing the brain to go silent. That rarely works. Telling an overthinker to just stop thinking is like telling an alarm system to relax while it still believes there is smoke in the room. The deeper work is teaching the mind that not every thought is an emergency. A thought can appear without needing to be solved. A fear can rise without becoming a prediction. A memory can return without becoming a punishment. A possible outcome can exist without needing hours of mental rehearsal. One of the most powerful shifts is learning to say, "This is a thought, not a fact." Instead of saying, "They hate me," the mind can learn to say, "I'm having the thought that they might be upset." Instead of saying, "I ruined everything," it can learn to say, "My brain is trying to protect me from rejection." That small distance matters, because overthinking becomes more painful when you believe every thought deserves your full attention. But not every thought is wisdom. Some thoughts are fear wearing the mask of preparation. Some thoughts are old wounds trying to predict new situations. Some thoughts are simply the brain searching for certainty in a world that will never offer complete certainty. And maybe the goal is not to become someone who never thinks deeply. Deep thinking is not the enemy. The world needs people who reflect, who care, who notice what others miss. The problem begins when thinking becomes a form of self-protection that never allows rest. So if you are someone who thinks too much, maybe the question is not, "Why am I like this?" Maybe the gentler question is, "What did my mind once have to protect me from?" Because your overthinking may have started as an act of survival. It may have been your brain's way of keeping you safe when life felt uncertain, people felt unpredictable, or mistakes felt dangerous. But you are allowed to outgrow survival patterns. You are allowed to pause before believing every fear. You are allowed to let a conversation end without replaying it all night. You are allowed to make a decision without mentally living through every possible regret. You are allowed to be misunderstood sometimes without chasing every person's approval. And most importantly, you are allowed to rest without first earning it through perfect certainty. People who think too much often carry a silent burden because they believe they must be prepared for everything. But peace begins when they realize they do not have to solve every possible future to be safe in the present. Sometimes the most intelligent thing the mind can do is not think harder. Sometimes it is learning, slowly and gently, that this moment does not need to be defended against. It only needs to be lived.